What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, just want to say welcome. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. And to the return followers, appreciate y'all for being here in the comments and just the participation. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. It really does. I got a good one today that crossed my mind. It's something that I hadn't even watched this yet on YouTube because I didn't want my mind to have too much going on from other people's thoughts. So I intentionally stayed away from it. But I want to talk about it today here on the channel. And what I want to talk about is, does body count matter? Does body count matter? Now, I know, okay? I know that the women are gonna hop along Cassidy up in here to see which way this thing really goes, right? I already understand that. Just hear me out. Does body count matter? Does it really matter? To go ahead and answer that question, as far as to a man, does body count matter to a man? That's what I'm speaking. I'm not speaking for a woman. I'm speaking of to a man. When we talk amongst ourselves, or when a man was to ask his lady, they're gonna get serious, maybe thinking about marriage or being exclusive, and this conversation comes up. It seems like the question of does it matter, we need to deal with it, talk about it, discuss it. The quick answer would be yes. The quick answer, I would say, is yes, body count matters. Now, I'm going to have to assume some things here to make my case. Ladies, if you don't mind me just assuming some things right here. And from what I've heard, too, as well. But it's probably the thought of women. Why should body count matter to men if we can run all over the place and do what we want to do, be with as many women as we want to be with, and come back and lay with y'all without too much of a hiccup? Why should it matter so much to us? And being honest, first of all, let me say, and you women may chuckle, I'm of the opinion, fellas, that women are never gonna tell us the real number anyway. I'm just of the opinion of that. I mean, I'm sure most may tell the truth. Maybe they all do. I just feel like they're gonna leave at least 2 or 3 off, right? I feel like the dude that they was maybe first with, practice or whatever, they're not gonna count him. The one night stand when they got mad at their boyfriend because they caught him with somebody else, so they went out, had a one night stand with a dude that they know been wanting them the whole time. They ain't gonna count him, right? So there's gonna be 2 or 3, in my opinion, they probably gonna leave out. But let me explain why I feel that it matters to men. What it takes, and we're not talking about 3 or 4 type women, which if a part of my audience don't know what that means, very promiscuous type women. I'm not dealing with that. I'm dealing with, hopefully there's still a middle ground of average woman, right? That's not that low. What a man knows is this. What it takes for a woman to actually become fully intimate with a man, most of the time, is going to require her to have some kind of an emotional connection towards him. Somewhere in her mind, in her spirit, we as men know that in order for her, and she's not a loose woman, that if she was with him, she cared about him to some degree, or there was some type of an emotional pull that she felt towards him. I have seen guys that didn't look like much of anything, but because they had a good sense of humor, they were able to get as many women as, let's say, the nice looking guy or the athlete, just based on his humor, but he wasn't that attractive. But he was able to make the ladies laugh. So there was always some connection. And we as men know that if she was intimate with him, there's an emotional connection there. Now, the question, the question becomes, how many times before us was her heart or emotions with someone else? Because in our minds, it's going to create a pattern as to how, again, we want to grade it, loose or contained she is. So let's just throw out a number. If she's 30 years old, let's say never been married and been with 15 or 20 men, we're going to see that a particular type way. Even though a 30-year-old man might have been with that many women or more. But when a man looks at what it takes for a woman, the standards are going to go way high, because we know that unless she's a 304, it took something in her to say, I will go all the way with him. And a piece of her has been given to him. And so when you add that piece in, men and our egos, we can be territorial, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I know it's used negatively, but just in our nature, we are territorial over our lady. We don't want too many dudes in her face, because we know how dudes can be. So we're going to be very territorial over her. So what it takes for her to actually go all the way, we're going to register that and say, now I need to grade what kind of woman she is. Now, here we go, women. To all the women who say that's hypocritical because men are doing the same thing or more, I'm not going to necessarily disagree, but let me say this. What it takes for a man to, we would just say be intimate with a woman does not require emotion. All he has to do is physically like the way she looked. That's it. That's all he has to do. I use restaurant analogies a lot because it makes it very simple. A man could be in a restaurant with 3 homeboys, and an attractive woman or semi-attractive woman come in. Maybe her face is not all that great, but the rest of her body is right up his alley. If he's a single man in particular, it don't take much for him to want to get with her. And all it was a physical attraction. Even after the deed is done, men will have little to no emotional connection to that situation. That's why a lot of women hearts can be broken, because as you all give, a piece of you go with it. And I'm sure in a spiritual sense, a piece of us go too, but we don't feel it through our emotion. Women feel it through their emotion. So they would have got 3 or 4 times, and then he ghosts the woman. Her heart's all broke because I gave him all of this, and we don't think that way. Man, when the last time you talked to Keisha? Man, I don't know. She ain't texted me in 3 or 4 weeks. Man, y'all good? Don't make me no different. I'm not talking about somebody when y'all in a dating relationship. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about somebody. I'm just talking about the ease. If you don't know this person, the ease that he could just be with her and disconnect almost immediately. It's just the way men are. So I understand that it can seem like hypocrisy, and I don't want to try to make excuses for men. All I'm saying is we're not using the same method on the approach. We know if she has been with 15 guys, 20 guys, she was emotionally connected to some degree. At least we assume this. There's a great piece of her that she had to be in this guy, or this guy has, all these guys have now been with her. And as men, we want a trophy on our arm. Again, I can't speak for a woman, right? We want a trophy on our arm. We want to feel like we have something preserved. And let me say this. I'm talking in situations where you're talking about going exclusive or maybe marriage. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just flings through body count. I'm not talking about body count matters on that, where both people, y'all just having fun and body up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these serious conversations where we're thinking about moving forward into something serious, and these conversations is coming up of lifestyle, of history. That's when the body count may matter. Because again, if she's been with whatever that number is, and nobody has actually put a number on it, but whatever that number is that in his mind is high, then he has to think she has given herself to quite a few people, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Whereas he could have been with the same amount of people and couldn't tell you half of their names because there was no emotional connection. It was pure physical. Again, I'm not trying to excuse us as men. I'm just saying we're using 2 different methods for what we're getting out of it. One is using emotion. One is using just pure physical attraction. So the question was, does it matter? To men, yes, it does matter, because through our being territorial and through what we know, the degree that women go through to give themselves to somebody else, and then 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 to somebody else. As a man, they're going to struggle with that. Now, let me end with this. Everybody has a past, men and women. And let's say that, and I'm just using this as an example, it don't always have to be this way. I'm just, as a pattern, often it is this way. Let's say that a young lady grew up in a broken home, little to no attention, and found that she could get attention from boys with using her body skills. And so at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, going into college, that number is racking up. And then maturity kicks in. And this same woman now realizes that she has given herself over to nothing, given her body away, because she now realized of issues and toxic environments that she grew up in that caused her to look for love in all the wrong places. So she changes. She becomes a woman. She cleanses herself. She changes her ways. She changes the way that she thinks. She begins to respect herself, her body. She just has a past. In those instances, if a man really loves that woman and is able to tell him the truth, because remember on other videos that I did, we talk about knowing the history of a woman and also of a man. And if she's able to tell the truth and say, I was like this, this is probably the amount that took place, but I haven't been like that in 2 or 3 years. I've changed. I'm a different woman now. We're talking, now again, I'm not talking about just date. I'm talking about somebody that you may plan on spending the rest of your life with. Y'all are having that conversation. I'm not talking about just regular boyfriend and girlfriend. Oh, how many you been with? 7 people. How many you been with? 14 people. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody that you're going to be investing in, particularly for the rest of your life. You're taking her, you're taking him, you're taking his last name. Y'all going to be one, build a family. These conversations need to be had, right? These conversations need to be had. No man likes to be caught off guard, especially if y'all living in the same town where y'all used to get down. Okay, especially if you got a couple of thumpers that's in the same town, because what we do not want is to be taking y'all to, I'm trying to think of somewhere, because everything I think, women don't want to go there no more. I was going to say Olive Garden, but I heard that ain't high enough no more. I'm going to say it anyway, right? We don't want to go up at Olive Garden, and while we're sitting there waiting on the table, 2 dudes come and give you a hug like y'all brothers and sisters. And then you got to turn on, that's just somebody I was in college with. No, I know him since middle school. And in our mind, we already like, yeah, okay. We may not say nothing because we in Olive Garden, a lot of people around, we may not cut up. But we already know by the way the dude hugged you, that ain't just nobody from elementary school. Okay? So, especially if y'all in the same town, you definitely gotta be understanding of that. That's just something we don't like. So, does body count really matter? I'm speaking for men now. To a man, yes, I gave you the reason why, but I believe that if a man really loves you, in terms of wanting to start a future with you, and you're not flirty, and if you trying to say, hey, I'm changed, but then you flirting with everybody and you shake your hips in front of everybody and you're always touching, they're gonna register that one way. She's still the same. And there won't be trust in him towards you. Speaking to the ladies. Now y'all can put in the comments how y'all feel about a man's body count. I'm just speaking as far as I think the majority of the male. I know, and there are some men I know that's gonna say it don't matter to me. Everybody has a past. Let's just move on. I get that, but I think that for the average guy, if that number goes up, and I guess it would depend on age. At 20, it's probably gonna be a certain number. At 30, there's gonna be a little more allowances. At 40, there's gonna be a little more. So I think. It can't just be one number, So you meet somebody that's 40 years old and expect she's only been with, one or 2 guys. Like, it's probably not going to happen. So there is some tolerance there. But the age and the number needs to, it needs to kind of make sense. And if it don't, then we just need to know that this is something of the past. And we need to feel that, not just from words, as y'all do with us. You need to feel it, not just our words. And before we know that we can move on and maybe not, I don't know if the word embarrass is the right word, but like I said, every man wants a trophy on his arm. He wants somebody that he feels like is pure or close to it. That's why men a lot of times when they ready to settle down and get married, say, not nowadays because the church is just as ratchet, but unfortunately, but that's why men used to say, and women, I gotta go to church, man, find me a wife. What they really saying is somebody that has kept themselves and maintained themselves that should be marriage material. Now, we did what we wanted to do, but when we ready to get married, we know, okay, we might have did what we want to do, but we not trying to find that. We want something a little more contained, I would say. So anyway, y'all put in the comments. Tell me what y'all think. Fellas, chime in. Ladies, let me know how y'all feel about body count as far as men go. And let's talk about it. Y'all be blessed.